Thank you very much. Thank you. This is one of my absolute favourite places to be, up in front of you all. Well, it's borderline terrifying as well, but I love just having the chance to pass on some of my crazy experimentation. So, further adventures with shortcuts and Jamf actions, folks. We've, after 2023 was a big year for shortcuts at WWDC's, less momentous last year, but, well, get straight to it. WWDC25 and loud and proud in the Mac section of the keynote, no less. I mean, 2023, it was a big chunk of the what's new for IT, but this was like right out there. And I will highlight, Mr. Air Force One did say when shortcuts made it to the Mac, it was the future of automation on macOS. So I've taken those words to heart, probably a lot faster and more deeply than many others present. But there was still, when I saw this, a very similar reaction to what happened in 2023. It was, oh my God, you probably heard the embolism from suburbs away if you're in Melbourne. But we have awesome new capabilities. Eric called out the use of AI models. I'll come back around to that at the end. It's an interesting development for the direction of shortcuts and how useful it's going to be to everyone. But before I get to that awesomeness, I'm going to show you a collection of shortcuts that I've got, and kind of along the lines of the description that you maybe saw for this session online. Many admins think that this is all shortcuts is. The tech equivalent of a Band-Aid. It's not. AUC Amble. But actually, no, it kind of is. It is a Band-Aid, but it's so much more. And it depends, like, more than most other tools that I've come across, shortcuts can be whatever you want it to be. If it's a really simple 1 or 2 action shortcut that just takes care of something that's time consuming, awesome. If you go further down my way of doing things and you get to shortcuts that are 300 plus actions, that's pretty significant, and I dare say more complex than a lot of simple apps that are out there. So, not just a Band-Aid, could also be a first aider. Could be an ambulance, could be a hospital. So in that model, folks, let me start with a first aid level shortcut. And it comes building on the awesome availability of Jamf actions, combining shortcuts and configurator with Jamf's APIs for a lot of really cool things. So this is a real world solution. Those of you from Australia, I'm not sure if we've got any internationals in the room, we all would be aware of the crisis in child protection and the apparent ineffectiveness of our entire working with children check infrastructure in this country. Comp now supports a number of educational customers, some of whom are childhood early learning centres. One of them, I will say, without naming them, so I suppose I don't need to say this, they were talking to us about this before recent events have hit the news. So it's something, and I mean, prior to moving into the Apple side of my career, I worked for Berry Street. They did child protection. This stuff is super important, and it's terrifying that there have been these enormous gaps. So we're doing our bit to assist. This childcare provider is an iPad only or iPad first environment. Most of their work gets done on iPads, and they want a simple, quick way to be able to wipe them every night. We looked into a shortcut that could be put onto the devices that would just delete the photos, which was like the big thing for them. But knowing that we've got awesome return to service improvements coming with the next generation, we've come up with this shortcut. So I will say we haven't yet tested it with the new return to service, but when it comes through and is supported by, I was about to say MDMs, DMSs, device management services. That's going to take a while to re-see. That's DP to ADE all over again. We're going to be able to get the time right down. So it's a successful working workflow at the moment, but we don't yet have the real benefit of the devices holding onto those apps. So it's the initial version, but it works. So let me just take you through it. But thinking from the end user's point of view, they're like, that's where you plug the device in at the end of your shift to charge it so it's ready for the next day. So from their point of view, they're plugging it into charge. What you'll see in a moment is what actually happens to that device. So shortcuts, configurator action there, get all connected devices, filter for iPad, just in case someone actually plugs their phone in or anything like that. Unless it's managed in Jamf, nothing will happen, but you know, redundancy, why not? We're electing to use extension attributes to help with the status. And so when that is in a script and all of that sort of stuff, maybe not the easiest thing to incorporate kind of on a whim or just to provide a minor additional benefit. But when it's just a shortcuts action, super easy. All you need to do is know the ID number of that EA. So EA13 is the status. And we can set it to deployed, ready, etc., as we'll see. We initiate the return to service. Here's the action right here. And it's repeating across all of the connected devices that it finds there with the right status. And then, in an additional EA, EA14, that is just a simple date stamp, which if devices aren't plugged in at the end of the shift, we can set up some smart groups and further automation within Jamf so that that device will be returned to service remotely as well. So a bit of redundancy there too. And then all the looping and that sort of stuff finishes. And then we're going to take advantage of the newer wait until battery level of X is hit, in this case 80%. And then every device that hits 80% charge is going to be updated with ready. So I am desperate to get my hands on PC locks, or as they're known internationally, lock and charge, more recent charge locker cabinets. They have APIs. You can really, really hand this up. Like Cambrionics, who provide the apps for those lock and charge cabinets, have already implemented the shortcuts actions that were announced at WWDC last year. So this could be augmented by lighting up a particular bay for a device to indicate to the users those iPads are ready to go. So, yeah.
Real quick, where is this shortcut running?
This is running on a Mac that's connected to the charge cart. So there'd be one in each center. And that's it, guys. So, I mean, half of the actions in there are comments. So you can see it's not a particularly involved shortcut, but boy, howdy, is it effective. So, and that's on the lighter end, guys. That's the first aid level. What have we got when it comes to ambulances? Fog. Get IPSWs for all platforms. This doesn't require Jamf actions. Bit of a hat tip to Mr. Nindy Gill and his wonderful Mist tool. So I've basically recreated Mist as a shortcut. You can select it by choosing the platform and then a version. You can just search for a version and say 15.3 and get all the results for that one there as well. Or you can get the device identifier and just get it for the device that you're running the shortcut on. So if we move across here, we've got just a little video. So it's running here. We click play on the shortcut, very quickly presented with a menu. Let's go, okay, cool. All firmware for current device. You'll see the shortcut will kind of not necessarily indicate how hard it's working as smoothly as we might want, but destination's the same. Here is a list of all the OSs that my M3 Pro MacBook Pro can get. And so I selected one, copied the download URL, or I could have just clicked the download in browser. It'd jump across into Safari and then start bringing that IPSW down. So you can imagine if you're just clicking through and looking for specific versions, that's going to be a nice, easy way to get through to it as well. So we're not just talking about macOS, we're talking about visionOS, iOS, iPadOS, even, I mean, you can't run it on current device to get it, but tvOS is in there, AudioOS. Did you know AudioOS is a thing? I didn't until I got really deep into the IPSW API. It's what HomePods run. So you can actually get that too. So really handy thing, when I get a chance to actually publish this, I'm going to try and incorporate a way for environments to just put in a list of the model identifiers that are in their environments. So then you could run this as soon as new software comes out and then put it into the folder that Configurator holds its software in, so that the moment you have a device that needs to be restored, you've got it right there. Even if you don't set that sort of stuff up, really quick and easy way here for you to be able to access it. So, docking procedures. Those of you who were here last year might have heard that I kind of misinterpreted a nerd type that Marcus sent my way and thought he was just talking about uploading icons to Jamf Pro. So I've got something on that in a moment, but this is what he actually meant, being able to get dock items from a Mac into Jamf Pro. When Jamf admin went away, that took away the method that most admins knew how to do that. So run it on the Mac with the dock items you want. It won't take the recent apps, and it'll give you a chance to select which ones you want uploaded and then give you some feedback on the upload process. So super easily, click play on the shortcut. It's going to beach ball for a moment, but I'm telling you that just because if you use this, that's not unexpected at all. And then give it a second. These are all the dock items on my Mac. You, as it says there, deselect the ones that you don't want uploaded. I wanted them all. Why not? I click done. And there's another wait of a few seconds while we let the Jamf API do its thing. And hey presto. So it turns out that the only two of those that I hadn't already uploaded were Feedback Assistant and Freeform. All the other ones, it said, no, that's already there. And with just a little bit of automation and that sort of stuff, made it very easy to be able to say, all right, cool, that's what happened. I need to do a little bit more of that feedback type stuff in my shortcuts. I've identified that flaw myself. So really simple way to be able to get your dock items up into Jamf Pro. Hospital time. This one is an extension of the misapprehension I had of Marcus's nerd snipe. So, icons, branding, having that side of stuff smooth and nice and looking good is something I think is becoming more important for most environments. For some, it's really been required at a high standard for some time. But if you upload an icon to Jamf Pro, it's difficult to reuse it unless you're in the GUI. So what I've done here to help reusing him in Jamf Pro or Swift Dialog as well, basically upload it via the API, grab the ID, Jamf Pro assigns it from the response and the URL, and then combine that with base64 version of the image, a friendly name, and the date added as a JSON dictionary. And I think, I haven't extensively researched this, but I've just put that in the script section of Jamf Pro, because a script in Jamf Pro's script section doesn't actually have to be a script. It's just text. So these attributes are stored just there in Jamf. You can view them through the GUI should you need to, which is another redundancy that I actually quite like. I wouldn't suggest you edit this manually because I broke this shortcut 2 days ago because I forgot about 4 spaces preceding a curly bracket. And oh boy, I did not need that stress in my life, let me just tell you that much. But let me show you what it looks like. So we're going to run the shortcut. And first thing we'll do is choose to upload an icon. So really simply, you can select a photo that would actually open the Photos app, or as I've done here, just select from Finder, give it a quick friendly name, and Bada bing. Remember what I was saying before about not providing feedback? This is one of the ones that I really need to do it in because that's done and uploaded. But let's have a look and see what's happening here. So there we go. That's the icon there. So you can click on any of these, grab the attribute that you want, and reuse it as you want. So just a really simple way to be able to get more use out of what's in Jamf Pro. And I'm wondering though, like maybe the base 64 side of things might eventually, if you're doing this a lot, like base 64 versions of a file are the size of the file generally, if not sometimes more. So you are going to end up with quite a large dictionary in there. However, it just makes it more usable. So I'm not quite sure if there's really any super big downside to it. This is the one here that I mentioned at the outset. Eric highlighted it in his keynote this morning. It's kind of a big deal for shortcuts. And I think a lot of Apple users' use of Apple's models, as we heard from Eric before, but worth restating, you can access private cloud compute, you can access the on-device stuff, and you can access external models at this point, just ChatGPT rather. But I feel very similar to Eric, like a lot of the language that Apple have used indicates that ChatGPT is the first of many that will be coming along. So, pretty awesome. Game changer is not a term I use lightly. It's a very simple way to use Apple's models. And again, highlighting that when you use ChatGPT through Apple Intelligence, it is anonymized. So not to be sniffed at, particularly for our education customers who have concerns about students' use, although that AI in K-12 in particular is, boy, that's a complicated situation to be in at the moment. But basically, a lot of the legwork that I've done in handling information, one of the first like app level shortcuts that I put together, Jamf App Sourcer, will check a bunch of different app packaging sources for the titles that you've given it in the CSV, report back on it. It will generate its own CSV as the original like result that it gets from those checks, but then it can convert it into HTML. And I had to do a lot of cribbing off the shortcuts subreddit and all of that sort of stuff to be able to work out, oh my gosh, how do I change this CSV into a nice HTML table with, instead of yes, no in text, with like the check and the cross emoji and all of that sort of stuff. That's exactly what these actions are going to be able to do. Maybe not in exactly the same way, and I really did get deep in doing that. Man, I was such an HTML expert for like 3 weeks. But like this, like moving data around, converting it, all of that sort of stuff, the fact that we've got that capability in something like shortcuts that was already so capable is going to open up a lot of really cool workflows. There are still other ways prior to this and alongside it in version 26 OSs, like if you have the ChatGPT app, there are shortcuts actions that just get donated in there. There's one called AI Actions that's dedicated, and that'll actually give you access to multiple models, and you can choose different OpenAI models to use as well, and even do like full image generation with like DALL-E. I think it actually might reflect how useful we as the admin community find Image Playground that nobody highlighted this morning, and I've kind of glossed over it today, but like Image Playground actions exist in shortcuts as well in the version 26 ones. But I think we're looking at the functionality and the usability, and that's really like the general sort of models, not so much Apple's implementation of the image-based sorts of things. So folks, that's about it for me. We have kind of gone right through all of the topics that I wanted to talk about. There's a little bit of content. If maybe you looked at the description of the session, there was a little bit more about sharing shortcuts to end user devices, and as well as using them in scripts and those sorts of things. For time and other reasons, I've had to subtract them from the session. So happy to answer, if you had questions around that sort of stuff, more than happy to answer them. But any questions on what we've seen here or shortcuts ideas you might have? Jeremy?
Yeah, David. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, sorry. So a shortcut itself, is it like a tool that, and sorry if this is naive, but is this a tool that a user has to run, or is it something that can be scheduled, or can it be run in the background? Like, it seems like a good like low code, no code solution for doing stuff. So I'm just curious.
Absolutely. So the automation side of shortcuts took a while to hit the mobile OSs even before it came to Mac. And Mac has been featuring shortcuts for a number of years now. However, it's only in the version 26 that we're getting the automation on the Mac side. So there are certain things like on my demo one running macOS 26, I created an automation that would monitor the desktop, and anytime it saw like a file or a PNG with screenshot in it, it would actually save that to another folder and things.
And that would run.
And so that would just be monitoring that folder. But there's also time-based things, location-based as well. On Mac, because of the nature of the device, it's not quite the same automation set as you get on a mobile device. But yeah, I think one of the things that I've tried to do is make the shortcuts as cross-platform as possible. Now that's something that, because Jamf Actions is Mac only, limits what you can do on the mobile side whilst enjoying that same level of like proper security, because it's all containerized, and Jamf Actions gives Shortcut the ability to use that information in very specific ways. So if there was a secure way to get the bearer token on mobile devices as well, all of these shortcuts would be cross-platform. And the fog one that I've shown is actually, you can run that from a phone. Although, interestingly, on a Mac, you might have seen, like, you get the model identifier with a terminal command. On a mobile device, it was working. There is a plist called the Mobile Gestalt plist on all mobile devices, where it holds information like the identifier and a whole bunch of other things. But interestingly, with these, like, the values are correct and they're what you're looking for, but the keys are these weird gobbledygook, like, obfuscated sort of things. So you need to know a little bit about it. And should Apple move the location of that plist, your shortcut will break, which is what appears to have happened here. So, and it wasn't even attached to like a major operating system update or anything like that. But I'm nose to the grindstone trying to find it, and glad that I'll be here for Dev World, because I can probably just ask someone rather than spend hours Googling things. Or seconds asking ChatGPT. God, how old am I?
Hello. Have you noticed any specific overhead when you're using shortcuts versus like a script? Do we think that shortcuts will eventually, hopefully, replace needing to create scripts for certain things once it's, I guess, more mature?
I think what we saw when we saw a little bit of a beach ball, and some moments when we're giving shortcuts a lot to do. It's not like it hangs, but there can be moments where there's no real feedback that something is happening. So yeah, but on the replacement for shell scripts, I ended last year's session with a hokey little graphic about trying to get onto an island, and bash scripting is like a helicopter, you can get anywhere in there and do it. Whereas using shortcuts is like, we're in a boat that needs to dock at a port of a specific kind, and that's a whole other thing. So I would not at all be surprised, and I have been saying for a while, that I think bash scripting at some point will be deprecated, but I mean, that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? But if you think about the very secure way that shortcuts works, it's as fundamental as bash scripting has been to the Mac admin lifestyle. It's really something I think that could go away once shortcuts capabilities are expanded so it can actually compete. Like there are some things that you have to use like a terminal command action in shortcuts to achieve still. I would think before too long, hopefully things like that are going to get built out, or the things on the OS side are just going to be so different.
Is there any way to pass secure variables to a terminal command in shortcuts? Like a password, for instance, that you wouldn't...
Yeah, that side of stuff, not so much. Like if one password, for example, had an action where you could just pull credentials out and use them in a shortcut and something like that, the possibilities, the fun we could have. The existence of Jamf actions, even though it is just Mac only at the moment, is a wonderful step in the right direction. And I don't believe any other DMSs have released any shortcuts related apps. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, but you know, vibe coding exists. So we might see some stuff pretty soon.
For folks in the audience like me who feel like a magpie trying to collect shiny things, those examples that you showed, including fog, would that be something folks could come up to you and talk about or get a copy of, or is it publicly shared?
I have not yet published those to my GitHub. Extenuating circumstances over the last few weeks, let me just say. But yes, I'm looking to get them up. And once they are published, you will need to download them, have the right, like an account with the right privileges, which I list on the GitHub pages, signed in to Jamf Actions, then they will just work. So no further like customization or anything. I don't need to know what you've called your environment variables or anything like that. It's just Jamf Actions, sign in, set it, and you're off to the races.
And if a particular magpie wanted any access to the GitHub, what would they be looking for?
My GitHub handle is dhcav, and it's shortcuts for Jamf Pro, one word. But I'm also dhcav, or am I dcav? So dcav on the Mac admin Slack. I should have put up QR code.
If you could pop a message in Slack with the details of it.
I will, yeah. Great idea, Cam. I'll put it into ANZ Mac, as I should have a slide. Thank you, Riverman.
All right, let's have a big hand for Damo.
Thanks.